July the 1st. Lake levels just about 927. It's been coming down about 5-6 inches a day finally. They've had steady water flow the last actually about the last week. And that's really helping out. It's starting to congregate these fish on the points. It's pulling the water back out of the bushes. There's not quite as much water in there. Water temperature, it's in the low 80s, depends where you're at. But there's just such a variety of different things going on. For the most part, I think fishing's really good. I think I've had 1 or 2 tough days in the past 7 days. But for the most part, a guy can go out and do just about anything. With the water flow that we've got going on, I'm really not seeing the fish setting up real deep, and that's pretty common when we've got a lot of current. Like even the drop shot fish, some of them are out there over 70, 80 foot of water, but they're only 22 to 25 foot deep. Seems like the best drop shot bite for me has been in brush piles and rock piles, but there's not a lot of fish that I'm finding in them, but the quality is there. The numbers of fish I'm seeing more suspended out in front of docks, over deep trees, and they seem to be 22 to 25 feet, but there's a lot of small ones. But if you're going to fish the individual brush piles, like the conservation brush piles, you only get 1 or 2 bites out of them, but they seem to be real big fat Kentuckies. There's still some smallmouth biting. We had 2 or 3 real nice smallmouth, 3-pound range this morning on a 7/16 ounce 5-fish lures PB&J jig. You catch them on a tube still. You catch them on a Ned rig. It seems like most of the fish for me have been, I don't have the boat much out of 25 foot. So they're from the edge of the bushes back out to the boat. When there's no wind and high skies, the bite gets a little bit tougher. And, that's a good time to get up in the bushes. And with the water flow that we've got right now, even down around Kimberling City and Indian Point, when I was down by there today, the water's got quite a little bit of stain. So a guy doesn't have to go up in the river arms to find stained water or to fish real shallow. No, I've been up in the White River and up in the James and quite a bit the last week or so, and you've been having a lot of fun. There's a lot of different ways we're catching them up there. They're starting to set up on the structure points, where the current's coming over the top. We're catching them out there on a Carolina rig, a football jig, a 3/4 ounce jig, just a lot of different baits. But I'm using a lot bigger baits. I've been Carolina rigging a big brush hog, and even a lot of the baits that I'm flipping, you'll see this one here is Texas rigged. I've got a 1/4 ounce tungsten weight and a bobber stopper to keep the weight peg, a 5/0 hook, and I've been fishing this anywhere from 2 feet out to about 10 to 12 feet in the bushes. Now, as the water starts dropping, I think it's going to make that bite better. It's going to pull them fish that are really scattered all over the place. It's going to start pulling them out to a little bit deeper bushes where they're a little easier to get at. But right now, you can get up in there. See, we were up there yesterday. You catch them on a frog and a buzzbait, pretty much all day long. A couple different frogs I like to throw. You can throw this is a Zoom horny toad. I've got a 4/0 EWG hook in it. You just Texas rig it. You can work this little guy just like a buzzbait. And what's good about this, if the fish misses it, you can just stop the bait. You can also just twitch it. I've been throwing a spro, a popping frog a little bit too, but another one of the other ones I like to throw is a Stanley, I think it's called a ribbit. But got a real big hook in it, and it'll work like a buzzbait, or you can pop it like a popping frog as well. And I've been throwing this up into a lot of the shoreline grass, and as the water's getting down, there's a lot more places that you can get to the bank. And some of these fish have been up there, 2 foot of water. Some of them have been coming out of the bushes and anywhere from 4 to 6 feet of water. Now, usually what we're doing, we're throwing a buzzbait or a frog around them, or a jig, and a Texas rig brush hog like I just showed you. But a couple different jigs that are working good is a Okeechobee craw, and I'm using like either a Chomper's twin tail, this is a baby Zoom, a Strike King baby rage craw I've got for a trailer on this one. Another color is a California 420. It's a watermelon with a little bit of black red in it. And then this is a magicron. This has got quite a little bit of blue and green. Now the deal seems to be when I'm up real shallow, if I'm not seeing any bluegill, not getting that, very many bites. It seems like I've got to have some bluegill beds and also some bluegill just kind of roaming around the bushes. And a lot of these bushes, I know it's July and the water's 80 degrees, but I think some of these fish are just now getting done spawning, because a lot of the fish we caught yesterday looked like post-spawn fish that hadn't been done too long. They had big heads and they were pretty skinny. But I still think, like I say, that last full moon we had, I think a lot of fish spawned, and there's still a lot of fry in the bushes. If you get around the bushes, it's got either fry, bluegill, or bait, shad. That's where it seems like the buzzbait and the frog bite is best. Otherwise, you got to really just, pick apart a lot of the bushes. And as far as the deep crankbait, I've caught a few fish on it, still catching some fish on a 5-inch swim bait. I think that's all going to get better. I was down lake today, and like I said, we caught some decent smallmouth. We caught some fish on top water this morning, a couple around the bushes, and a few out over some deeper trees. And we caught them on wake baits, like a jointed redfin, a storm thunderstick, or a strike king, wake shad. Any kind of wake bait seems to be working real good on them topwater fish. Now, another deal that usually comes to play in the summertime is a spoon, a 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce spoon in the boat dock stalls. We pulled into a dock there today just to check it out, and I think we caught like three fish on 3 flips, and the last one we had hooked had about 5 or 6 other ones with it. And a lot of times they'll get, down in them dock stalls real deep underneath them boats. But the ones we caught today seem like they're only about 10 or 12 feet down. We just, you want to pitch that jig back in the stall as far as you can get it. Let it fall down 10, 15 seconds. Keep an eye on your line. But these fish today were pretty shallow. And they'll be there all summer long. And it seems like, when you're pulling water like this, a lot of the fish will suspend, out on the main lake. I don't think it affects the fish back in the creeks as much. But out there on the points, I believe it does, especially if you're fishing over submerged timber. And, a lot of the points where we're throwing a jig and a tube and even a Ned rig, trying to get what we call current points. Areas of the lake where the water's coming across the top of the point, be like the inside point where there'll be the best water flow. And you just have to kind of mess around with the depth. I really haven't found them piled up. I've still got to move around quite a little bit. Now up in the river arms, we have found some areas we can set in one spot and catch 8 or 10 fish without moving the boat. Just anchor locking down and, set there and make repeated casts. But as far as down lake, Kimberling City, the dam area, I haven't been able to catch a lot of multiples. I have to keep moving around a little bit. But, like I say, I think there's a little bit of everything that'll work. Especially if that sun gets up real high, even in the middle of the day. Don't be afraid to go back in that shallow water, either throw a buzzbait or a frog, or flip a jig, or some kind of creature bait, like a beaver, brush hog. Don't be afraid to throw a big worm in there as well. It seems like the warmer the water gets, the bigger the bait I usually like to pitch in them areas. But it's going to be pretty busy out there this weekend, but you can get out there in the mornings before everybody gets out there with the wakeboard boats and recreation boats. So you should have good fishing up to about 10, 11 o'clock, and the lake's going to get real busy. And I just want everybody to try and be careful out there this weekend. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.